This conference will now be recorded.
So we were downloading the files whatever required for the SQL Server Management Studio, and JRE file, Java runtime file. So can we start the installation? Is that completed, the download process? Yesterday who were doing that process?
Yeah, it's completed, Ram. Shall I share my screen or what?
Yes, I will give presented to you. Share your screen. First, we will start the installation of JRE file. Please share your screen and you just follow the instructions whatever I'm telling.
Okay.
Alright, so go to the downloads folder, JRE file where you have downloaded.
Okay.
JRE. Yeah,
JRE
just
folder.
double
Yeah.
click on it.
Yes.
It will open the installation file, executable file.
Yes.
Does it open anything?
Yeah.
Can
Already
you
have given yes.
click
Sorry.
install?
Okay.
Click install.
It's done, Ram. I hope.
Yes. So now we have to open the SQL Server Evolutionary Edition. So the installation
Okay.
of the GRE file is completed. Then double click on that
Okay.
SQL.
This one. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Basic or what? Basic, no?
So you have to select
Or
custom.
custom. Oh,
Accept.
one second. One second. Custom, and then
Click on
install.
custom. Yes.
Hello, Ram. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had one small doubt. Like while we were working into real time, like we'll be working with the portal, or we'll be working with PowerShell, or what for Azure. Directly, we'll get the access from the portal, or what? They'll give the access for the portal, or we need to have go for like PowerShell to connect, or Cloud Shell will be there for Azure. I heard with that, like they'll be
Service.
creating the services, all these things. Yeah.
Now,
Sorry.
that depends on the kind of services you are selecting. So mostly our
Mhm.
BI background, we are going to the portal only. Okay. So we don't
Okay.
use the
Okay.
partial, mainly the developers in the sense app developers or something like a backend services what they are using. That people only can go to the PowerShell. But we are not going to touch any PowerShell. Mostly we are using directly services inside the portal. And if anything applications required, like Storage Explorer, something like that, these kind of applications we will install.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So once the download of the SQL Server, extracting all the files what it required to install, then after you will get this window. So the left side you can see there is a planning, installation, maintenance. You have to go to the installation because we are trying to do installation of the SQL Server. Click on the installation. Then in the right side you are getting new SQL Server standalone installation. The first option you need to select. Then click next. Then click next. So no need to worry about the version. You can install 2017 or 19, any version, no problem. After 2016, any version you can install, because the Polybase feature we have after 2016 only. You can click next, no problem. The Windows firewall, no problem. So you just click next over here. Evolutionary edition, yes, click next. Accept the license terms. Okay, so what are all the things you need to select here to install? The first one, database engine service, nothing but SQL Server. And just come down. Here you can observe Polybase quality, Polybase query engine. Yeah, and also in future I'm going to discuss about SSES, analysis services. That also I want to do the installation right away. I don't want to do again in future. So click analysis services as well. Just come down. These three are enough. Okay, click next. Click next. So give some named instance. What you can give? Your name, Polybase. Okay, this is the instance name. Yeah, click next. That will come automatically. Any name you can give. Use SQL Server as and Polybase enabled instance. Yeah, click next. Click next. So this is the authentication method. How you are going to connect your SQL Server? Are you going to use only Windows authentication or the SQL authentication also. If you want both authentications, select the second option. So here you need to enter some password. Enter the password. The password should like this, caps letter, something name at the rate of 1234, something like that. You can enter your own password. So when you are going to connect to the SQL Server in future, either you can use Windows authentication or you can use this password along with a username SA. Username is SA, password is whatever you entered just now. You need to keep in the mind. And in the bottom, you have to click on add current user. Then click next. After adding the current user, click next. Then again, for SSMS purpose, leave it default tablet model, but add current user. Wherever you are getting add current user, you need to add it. Click next. Click next. These are all the things we are going to install. Click on install. So installation done completely. It's successful. Now we need to install the SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so just close this window. You can close this one also. Yeah, the SSMS setup. Double click on that. So you have already installed the SQL Server Management Studio. That is the reason it is showing uninstalled. So you don't need to install again. It's very easy actually, installation of the SQL Server Management Studio. Directly you can click on install and the next. That's all. So close this window and we will open the SQL Server Management Studio. Go to the start. There you can see a SQL Server Management Studio. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm in mute. Okay. So this is not the one we have installed the SQL Server instance. We installed a Kanaka underscore Polybase, right? So please uninstall this one. No, not uninstall. Sorry, please disconnect this one. Under the Object Explorer, there is a disconnect option. Yes. Now again you can connect. Click on connect option. So under the server names, just click on the drop down, browse for more. This is the one you have installed earlier, but now we need the latest SQL Server installed with a Polybase feature. Click on the database engine. See the Kanaka underscore Polybase version. I mean, it's an instance we installed. Okay, click OK. So if you want to connect to the SQL Server, either you can use Windows authentication or SQL authentication. If you want to use a SQL authentication, you need to enter the username as SCA. Password is the one we entered at the time of installing. Okay, perfect. So everything is set. You can see the Polybase features over here, where you can see under the Object Explorer, you can see the Polybase. The earlier when they are installing, they don't get this Polybase option. Okay, in this instance, we are installing along with a Polybase. All right. So what about others? Is your installation completed or not?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So What exactly we are trying to do after this installation? We are trying to utilize this Polybase option, whatever we have created. The Polybase is querying the data from other data source, querying the data from other data source. The other data source is nothing but a blob storage. The data available inside a blob storage to this SQL Server installed on my local machine. I want to query the data from here to here, but I don't want to store that data into my SQL Server. Simply, I just want to query and visualizing the data. I want to make the data to be visible by writing a SQL query. That is called a Polybase option. The Polybase is basically querying the data from a external data source into SQL Server. That external data source might be a Azure data lake or Azure blob storage. In this scenario, we are going to take Azure blob storage. Okay. So to demonstrate these things, we have to follow some steps over here. What are the things we need to do? Polybase implementation. The prerequisites to implement the Polybase is we have already installed the SQL Server with Polybase. Okay, and SQL Management Studio. To install SQL Server with Polybase, you require a JRE file. The JRE file already we have installed. Then the third thing is create Azure storage account, and inside the storage account you should have a table storage, blob storage. Create Azure storage. Under that you should have a blob storage. Under this blob storage, upload some files and create a folder also. Under the blob storage is nothing but container. Create a container. Under the container, create a folder. Under the folder, upload some files. Then open the SQL Server and write down the below steps. We need to perform this Polybase in 5 steps. One is we write down the queries. The first step is creating a master key. The step 2 is store the credential into SQL. Step 3, create a external data source. Create external data source. Then step 4 is create external file format, because we are trying to query the data from files. So what is the format of the files you need to specify. Then after, create the final external table. External table needs to be created. Then you can query the data from the external table. So these are all the steps we need to perform. Okay. So these are all the steps we need to perform. Creating one master key, and the second step is store the credential. What do you mean by credential? We need a credentials to connect to the storage account. Okay, we need a credentials to connect to the storage account. how to authenticate to the storage account. You should have access key, right? We have discussed about the access keys. That access key you can mention over here. That access key you need to store. Then after, by using that credential, whatever you have stored, you need to create an external data source. What is your storage account name and in which container you have the files, all the information you need to specify. And the files what you have inside that container, what kind of files, whether it is a text file or the comma separated files or delimited files, what exactly you need to specify. Then by using this data source, by using this file format, you can use the create external table over here. So these are all the steps we need to, from here onwards, we need to write down in the SQL Server by connecting to the SQL Server from SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so those steps I will perform today. The demonstration from here onwards, creating Azure storage account, open SQL Server, and all these things I will do tomorrow. Any questions on so far today's session? Tomorrow we will do the practical demonstration on this.